Today on Talk To Minecartia, new blood in the United States courts. MJP has been unanimously confirmed by the General Assembly. What will this mean for the United States as a whole? Polls released by MBS News and MRT News Channel overnight. The MBS News poll shows that most people have a favorable opinion of the United Cities, meaning that it goes cohesive. But there's no cohesive opinion on who should be running for most of the positions in the election. We'll have interviews with the Associate Justice MJP as well as Secretary of State candidate Alex Hong coming up in the broadcast, as well as in-depth analysis about the week's leading stories. This is Talk To Minecartia. Good morning and welcome to the premiere of this show. First coming up is our interview with MJP the newly confirmed Associate Justice. We're back to Talk To Minecartia now, and we are interviewing MJP Mr. Pugh has recently been nominated by Cal 76 to become Associate Justice, and there have also been rumblings of support for him to run for Chief Justice to succeed, as he is the founder of the MRT Federalist Party and is a member of the Great Society Congress. So, Mr. Pugh, how do you feel about being nominated to Associate Justice?
Well, I guess as with everybody, I feel honored to be offered this position in the first place, especially to replace and to keep living on the legacy of such a fine justice as Mr. Zomperman. During his tenure, he proved himself as just a man of many ideas. He asks the right questions. He never backed down for something that he believed in throughout his time. And I was sad to see him resign. I wish him all the best. And I think because of him, I'm a better mayor, a better representative, maybe a better justice, but certainly a better person. So nobody can replace him, but I'm honored to just continue his legacy and take the UC in hopefully a direction that he will appreciate and which we all will appreciate.
So you are known for writing often lengthy criticisms of the resolutions in the wiki. Some have praised you for this, others have criticized you as being far right. How would you describe your political views on the United Cities and how it should progress?
To be honest, I describe myself as somewhat more central than a lot of people would make me more out to be. Um, Typically, a big part of why I write the criticisms that I do is I want to ask people questions. I want to know that whatever resolutions are being proposed, people have thought through them. People have worked them out and figured out what would be the best for everybody. And if they can do that, I'm more than happy to rally behind them, whatever really their view is. My top priority, whether it be as a justice or whether it be as a representative, is to compromise, to work together. And in working together, that's the only way I believe we can really continue to stand for something and move forward. However, at being a justice, I don't think a lot of my politics would necessarily be pertinent to my role. My role is to protect the Constitution and not really much else.
And politically, you're part of the Great Society Congress, which has been regarded by many as the counterweight to MRT International. And some members of your coalition have actually been known to criticize MRT International, often to the point of being called out by the leader of the Great Society Congress. How do you feel about MRT International? Are you against it, or did you join the Great Society Congress just because it represented your views more accurately in your opinion?
Well, kind of like I said with the past few questions, what I do believe is in the ability to work together and to compromise to get things done. I joined the GSC mainly because it reflects the views of the Federalist Party more accurately. But I do believe that we do need to work across the aisle. The GSC and the MRTI have really good ideas, and they both have really good points. In the case of the GSC, they want to protect the values that made the United Cities great and hopefully continue on the legacy of its founders. And as for MRTI, they look at things from a more democratic perspective, from a more perspective of just the average person, the working guy, the small, figure, the new member who wants to ultimately have a successful career on the MRT. And I believe that that path should be accessible to them. But at the same time, I believe that we can't compromise our values for something that is otherwise regarded as, quote, necessary and proper. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yes. And moving on to the election, some have called on for you to succeed Cal 76 as Chief Justice,
Really?
mostly mostly from the establishment's right conservative part of the United States. A few votes have been cast for you in the way too early July election poll for Chief Justice. Do you plan on running for any positions in the near future?
That over the past couple of election cycles, I have contemplated running for office just because it's something the UC is something that, let's face it, I'm passionate about and which a lot of people are passionate about. At the same time, I also have to remember that I have a real life. I'm actually starting college this fall. I'm getting orientated for that next week. And so, in the process of that, it's all about balancing your time, balancing your priorities with the priorities of the server, and giving equal right and benefit to both of them. And who knows? I may run, I may not run. I'm not going to reveal any secrets now. But when that time comes, we'll see what happens.
And how do you feel about the current officers in the United States? Do you feel that they're doing a good job? Do you think they could be better?
So long as they continue to work across the aisle and unite and really show as much passion for the United Cities and for helping people and for watching the server grow, I'm all for that, no matter what their politics are. I think all in all, it's just whether or not people can uphold the Constitution and protect the values of the United States that are expressed in the Constitution. And outside of that, there are a bunch of different ways that you could go.
Yes, the United States is a very political place, and we'll be back in 1 second. Unfortunately, we were unable to show the rest of the interview because of technical issues that caused part of it to be lost. However, I will summarize what was said in the interview. We asked MJP about why he was obsessed with waffles and what he planned on doing a pancake house. He stated that the waffle thing started on a Roblox group about Waffle House, which he was a leader of with, I believe, Captain Lincoln. And he also stated that he may expand into pancakes and other breakfast items sometime in the near future. MJP was also asked about what he would do differently about the MRT. He stated that actually we lost that part in our notes. We apologize to MJPWWF, but we'd like to thank him for coming on the show for the interview. And now that he's a social justice, we wish him the best of luck in that position. We'll be back in a few seconds for next coming up next our interview with Alex Song. we're back to talk to we're back to talk to Minecartia, where our next interview was with Alex Song, who is running for Secretary of State. Alex Song is also the first Chief Justice of the United Cities. He is also the Chief Justice of the League of Cities, and of course, he's a moderator. Now, Mr. Song refused. I'm sorry for that choice of wording. He declined to use voice for the interview, so it was done in Discord direct messages, and the transcript will be posted to the wiki later today. And all I did was just read off the direct messages. I apologize if it bores you. Good day, everyone, and now we are interviewing Alex Song. Alex Song has been a moderator on the server since 2015, and he has also ran for Chief Justice in the past for the Whig Party and nearly defeated Cal 76, narrowly lost by only a few votes. He declined to use voice, so we interviewed him over Discord direct messages, and I will be reading out his responses. Now, Mr. Song, first question, why is it that you're running for Secretary of State? You can see right here was where we are interviewing Mr. Alex Song. He states, I am running for Secretary of State because I believe in establishing good cross-organizational relations. And he is still typing out his response. The current Secretary of State is on the chills. Mr. Alex Song, can you elaborate on how you establish these good cross-organizational relations? And can you also elaborate on how you think we'll ask that question later. I have good relations with a wide range of members who are part of nearly all political parties, he states. I believe I can facilitate negotiations and foster good relations between the political parties. He is still typing out his response, so we're waiting on that at the moment. Personally, I have had experience as part of the establishment, the Greens, and as an independent. So my next question to Mr. Song is this. In the past, you have made vague statements that appear to have criticized the current officer, specifically President Castle, for politicizing the United Cities. Now that we all then asked him, now that essentially the same officer has been in power in 5 months, how do you feel about the officers now? And do you feel that they could improve? What mistakes do you feel they made? This has been in response to several vague statements that you have made in the past, calling them too political. Alex Song replies, I believe this has been taken out of context. Yes, it is true that I said the UC has become too political. What I meant by that is the divisions between the political parties were growing too large and there was too much bickering. So we asked him after that, how will you solve these divisions? Right as he said, I would like to reduce the politicization of the United Cities and assist everyone to achieve actual progress. I feel that President Castro done a good job. I'm not going to comment on other current members of the executive. will solve these divisions by advocating for a focus on building and infrastructure development between cities of the UC, rather than focusing on the differences in political ideology. So basically, what you're saying is that we should focus on projects to distract away from politics and arguing, correct? Not to distract, he states. We should focus on projects and getting cities to work together rather than focusing on political differences. And finally, I find a question for Alex Song, and it's not about the United Cities. It's as a moderator, how do you feel about the direction the MRT is heading? Do you feel that the community is doing great, or do you think it needs to improve? What about the staff? How do you feel about that? I am hopeful about the progress of the MRT. It seems like a lively community and is accepting of new members. For example, I've always been an advocate for. That being said, minor improvements can be made. For example, I've always been an advocate for ecologically sustainable development. Also, I am a big fan of completed builds and cities. I really don't like seeing building abandoned half-built structures slash cities. If more people would finish their builds and incorporate nature to their cities, that would make me happy. And that's it. Thank you, Mr. Song, for coming to the interview. And we'll be back. I like and get along with the rest of the staff. That's what he says. Thank you, Alex Song, for coming to be interviewed on this inaugural edition of Talk to Minecartia. Thank you for providing a different viewpoint for us. And that was the interview with Alex Song. Coming up in about 30 seconds, the panelists, a roundtable discussion of the week events in the United Cities and the MRT server.
Can I have a fresh donut, please?
What's a donut? We only serve muffins.
Sorry for those technical difficulties. We're back to Talk to Minecartia now. Now our panelists. And we're back to Talk to Minecartia for a roundtable analysis. Our political contributors today are Minecraft Yoshi26, who has been election clerk twice in the past, and KittyCat11231, who is the chief anchor of MBS News and is also the incumbent attorney general. So the first thing is MJP WWF passed the General Assembly unanimously. What do you guys think about the fact that a person who hasn't been very vocal politically, at least on about the parties being chosen on the court, and not only being chosen but having no opposition at all?
I mean, to be fair, I wouldn't exactly characterize MJP as not being politically vocal. There have been several resolutions actually where he does put quite a lengthy comment below the voting on why we should or why we shouldn't vote on this resolution. And he is a politically active person within the United Cities. He's proposed quite a few resolutions, some of which have been defeated, like his one that would have turned the General Assembly into a bicameral legislature. But I wouldn't call him politically non-vocal. And the thing about, he hasn't said much specifically about what party he prefers, but the fact is he is part of, I believe it's MRT Federalist Party, and that is a member of the Great Society Congress. So he's definitely in that wing of the political spectrum as far as the UC is concerned.
Yeah, his vocalness definitely comes out during resolutions. Those long ass paragraphs, especially when there's a resolution that gets a lot of attention. Usually, a lot of paragraphs are written, and he's very vocal about that. It's definitely going to bring a new face, the new face to the courts because usually Cal is usually the most vocal, of course, at the court. But now that MJP is there, I have a feeling that the Associate Justice is going to have a lot more voice in the court's writings than before.
Yeah, MJP is a pretty well articulate person in my personal opinion, given the fact that he does such thorough responses to resolutions. And of course, a couple polls came out. Firstly, the MBS News opinion poll, which was released on Saturday evening, in which most people 20 people polled, most people were favorable opinions of the current officers.
To be fair, MJP was not included in the MBS poll because he wasn't an associate justice when the poll was being conducted.
Overall, the majority of people who took the poll seemed to be in favor of what the United States was doing as direction, except for the Parks and Recreation Committee. What does that mean for the United States? Is it's going to keep going pretty well, or do you disagree?
Well,
Well,
definitely.
Poll definite. Let me just say, there is more of a split vote for certain questions over others, but with regards to people's overall opinion of the United Cities, the one question that had the most favorable opinion was just what is your opinion of the United Cities? 10 out of 20 respondents rated the United Cities as favorable. None rated it as unfavorable, and 4 had no opinion. Of course, there were 6 people who did not take our poll, but so far there are no people who find the United Cities unfavorable, and there's more of a split vote when you go down to the approval ratings for different officers. There's a 0 unfavorability rating for Vice President JP, for me as Attorney General, and for Nerney as Associate Justice, and even with the other officers, Cal 76 as Chief Justice, Castle as President, both have pretty good favorability ratings. When you go into the coalitions, it's more of a split vote, with more people finding MRT International unfavorable than those who find it favorable. There are no people who find the Great Society Congress unfavorable, and there are 5 who find it favorable, although the majority of respondents put it as no opinion. And more people said that they would vote for MRT International than who said they would vote for the Great Society Congress, which does go against the previous 2 questions in the poll, so that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
For the committees, the Parks and Recreation Committee vote is pretty split, as well as the Canals Committee, but the Transit Committee and Roads Committee have pretty good favorability.
Yeah, well, let's remember that there has been a lot of backlash against MRT International, mostly from the older members of the server, but the Great Society Congress hasn't really provoked the same kind of backlash so far.
Yeah, that is true. You like to speak, Yoshi?
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
All right. So yeah, but MRT International has been around longer than the Great Society Congress. The reason why this poll kind of surprises me is because despite more people disliking MRT International than liking MRT International, and despite there being no unfavorable votes for the Great Society Congress, there are only 3 people who said they would vote for the Great Society Congress, and 5 people who would vote for MRT International. Of course, there are the people who put down no opinion. For MRT International, that was 5 people, and for the Great Society Congress, 9 people put no opinion. So that could explain it, because the Great Society Congress is newer, so some people might not really be that aware of what the Great Society Congress is and what it stands for. So, and also there are 6 undecided votes with regards to what coalition you generally vote for. But yeah.
Probably, some of those undecided votes and some of the votes that went to either one are probably going to move towards independent, most likely, because as we see in the United States, more, I think, generally, people usually swing the trend of people who are independent, because, of course, the people who are in the party, such as the, well, I guess what was the Centralist Party and all that stuff, will, of course, vote for their coalition. But I have a feeling that there is a large enough amount of people who aren't in coalition or aren't dedicated enough that will vote independent. So I have a feeling that the next election will have maybe at least 2 or 3 officers being independent.
Yeah, honestly, it depends on what candidates run, because this question that we asked It only asks in general what coalition would you vote for, and it really all depends on which candidates are running for each coalition, and as Yoshi said, if there's a viable independent option. So really, people are going to come down to voting for whatever candidate they think is best for the job. It might not necessarily be along party lines, although party lines definitely do have an influence in elections.
Yeah, this coming election could stack up similar to the January election because the Great Society Congress was essentially the same thing as the old MRT Whig Party with almost the same composition. It could be a Great Society Congress candidate, an MRT International candidate, and an independent candidate.
Oh, hello.
Okay, we had someone break in. Mr. Yoshi, could you make them teleport to spawn?
We'll be right back after these commercial messages.
And we're back to talk to Minecartia for. Yeah, in case you missed the PSA, don't break into someone else's recording because that is extremely uncourteous. Now we'll go to part 2 of our analysis with the panelists. And we're back to talk to Minecartia, where we were talking about the coalitions. Let's move on to the recent MRT News Channel poll, which produced almost no concrete results, given that the only one which really had people coalescing around a single candidate or two was Attorney General, because the vast majority of people wanted Kitty Cat 11231, who is to my left, to be reelected. What does that say? Does it say that people are just looking for new blood?
Well, the thing that has to be said is that this is a very early poll, and people aren't being presented with a list of options. They're being asked to write down who do you think should be the person to fill this office, and not many people have been thinking about the election quite yet, and so it's inevitable that people are going to mostly put random answers. There are a few exceptions, though. For example, for president, 4 people put Narnia for president, so Narnia could be a popular option as far as the Great Society Congress voters are concerned. JPH is also 4 votes for vice president. That could that could pretty much just be because he's the incumbent vice president, so people are given an option with him. I'm quite delighted by the amount of people who put me as attorney general. But yeah, for the other races, I don't really think that this poll shows who's going to win the next election, because it's really too early to tell. There's not really any choices given to people, and we're just going to have to wait until the election gets closer and there are actually candidates running the race.
Definitely for the next election. Really really depends, I think, what's going to happen with the election system, because that definitely has not been resolved.
Quite a bit of controversy over that.
Yeah, definitely on whether, because I think any proposal that's going to be put out, whether it is going to be private or non-private, because we know that there's be people who are going to be disliking it to be public because for some reason they want their vote to be private. It's going to be very difficult for anyone to, I think, agree on an election system that will work for this next coming election, because there's so many factors that need to be taken into consideration. Because if this gets a lot of backlash, the person who put up the resolution, if they're running, will get probably not many votes from those people like that. And whoever puts the next resolution for it is going to really have a big target on the back, and is basically flipping a coin on the next election.
Yeah, the most recent resolution, the attempted electoral reform, was Resolution 96, and it failed 7-9, and it cost us an associate justice. So
yeah, the electoral reform can get heated. I don't know if anyone who's been thought for becoming president like Narnia 17, maybe DJMC 2000 or RDO, is going to try to do it on their own. And a few people have already declared candidacy, as we already know. MD Bro for Vice President, Alex Song for Secretary of State. We already interviewed him earlier. He didn't really have much to say about the position, except that he would try to synchronize the people together and stop over politicization. For Chief Justice, we have Tommy 8. I'm not sure if he's gonna go. Anyway, what do you think of the current slate of Emirati International candidates?
as far as I'm gonna start with Chief Justice Tommy 8. I don't really know much about who Tommy 8 is. I know he's a new member to the United Cities, part of Emirati International, but in my honest opinion, I don't think he has enough experience or knows enough about the way
On one hand, he could be
Chief
seen,
Justice.
On one hand, he could be seen as new blood coming into the United States, given that he's so new. On the other hand, a lot of people already know about his political arguments about his real life politics and may be steered away from him based on that.
I mean, there's a thing about new members becoming officers of the United Cities, and the thing is, Chief Justice is a very important position in the United Cities. I'd say it's about on the level of president, with probably the second most important office in the United Cities behind the president. So, and the Chief Justice is an office. The office of Chief Justice requires a particular set of qualifications. You need to have a knowledge of how the United Cities works, how its law works, how the Constitution works. Because if you don't have that, then you're not going to be an effective Chief Justice, and it really could damage the way that the court is able to function. Also, the Chief Justice having the power to select the associate justices. So we really need a Chief Justice candidate that is going to do the job right.
And a Chief Justice candidate that's active, given that Narnia 17 hasn't really written any of the opinions, actually. Actually, I don't think anyone in the history of courts has written opinions other than Chief Justice Cal and the U Kitty.
Yeah, right now Chief Justice Cal 76 is pretty much the dominant member of the court. Prior to your resignation as Associate Justice, you took a bit of an active role, but it was mainly Cal who was deciding cases. Narnia sort of took a back seat in the court. Now MJP is a justice, and I expect MJP is going to be doing quite a lot for the court because MJP, in my opinion, is a justice with the experience and the knowledge necessary to be a justice. Narnia, on the other hand, Narnia is a bit questionable, but you wanted to say something, Yoshi?
I was gonna say, yeah, no, it's really telling. It's really gonna be telling for the next first court case where he's gonna be in it. If his role as the new justice, will he make associate justice more prominent? Will he have the long paragraphs like he did, which will definitely explain and make things more clear? Or will he'll stay a little more in the behind the scenes like Narnia did?
Yeah. Anyway, back to the discussion about the MRC International candidates. With regards to Vice President MD Bro 55, I really don't know enough about MD Bro to have an opinion. MD
He seems
Bro,
like one of the more central MRT International members, one of the more moderate ones.
yeah. So yeah, I don't really have enough knowledge about him to comment. For Secretary of State, I mean, the only problem I have with Alex Song being in an officer position is his activity level and the time zone that he's in. Although, honestly, if he's running the Secretary of State position is frankly a very inconsequential position. The job of the Secretary of State is to be the UC's official conflict arbiter, and no one uses the UC to arbitrate their conflicts. So when you're a Secretary of State, you basically get an officer position for doing nothing. Mindman has been Secretary of State for 2 terms since January. He'll be outgoing this July. And honestly, he's done nothing, and that's because there's nothing for him to do. So if Alex Song were to become Secretary of State, I honestly don't think it would change anything. Kiwi is actually also running for Secretary of State as an independent, I believe. In late May, he began his campaign. He began his campaign pretty prematurely, at that. But honestly, whichever one of them becomes Secretary of State, it honestly doesn't matter. So I'm not going to give an endorsement for either of them.
In Alex Song's defense, I believe he's active, and it's just that he's not really seen by the Americans and Europeans. And I think he has enough, he's favorable enough to get Secretary of State if he wanted to, unless someone really strong on the other side opposes him, which I don't think Kiwi Rainbow can do.
The problem is if you're going to be an effective officer of the United Cities, you need to be online when the other members of the cities are online. And the truth is that the vast majority of members of the United Cities, or at least of active members of the United Cities, are either in the Western Hemisphere or in the western part of the Eastern Hemisphere. And so if you're coming from a time zone that's further away from that, then that is going to cause problems. Of course, Secretary of State being an inconsequential position, but back before the January election, when the Chief Justice position was originally created, Alex Song was the first Chief Justice, and that was a problem because Alex Song was in a time zone where he couldn't be online at the same time as other people, which basically made it impossible for the court to function. There were 2 court cases that were filed during Alex's term, one of which was dismissed, the other of which me as an Associate Justice back then and former Associate Justice in Dev, we had to hold the case ourselves because after the 48-hour time window, Alec never responded. We had Narnia 17 as the Vice President presiding instead of Alec. So in the only actual court case of Alec's term, Alec wasn't there, and that's because of his time zone. So the time zone thing, while it's not his fault, it really can be an issue. Again, as I said, Secretary of State, inconsequential position. I don't really care, but for other officer positions, I think time zones really are a major issue.
Yeah, for like a few of the, I would say, honestly, for the UC, a lot, I would say more than just the Secretary of State don't have many uses. Like, I don't know, the VP doesn't have many uses other than breaking a tie, which of course the VP has done before, but not really much other than that. Other than like maybe getting somebody's party to office and show support, kind of like the second choice. Like that's a thing, but other than that, I don't think they really have any other usage either. While, for example, the president can pass resolutions, the attorney general updates constitution and law, which deals with the courts, his chief justice, and those people definitely have a role in the UC. While I think the VP and the Secretary of State definitely lack on their powers and what they can do, and for that matter, for that reason, their outcomes aren't that consequential.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're running for a position, the positions that I think are the most important in the UC are president, attorney general, and any of the justice positions. If you're running for any of those, you really do need to be an active member, both on the MRT and in the UC, because there's a lot that can come up. But as president, you're basically the person who's running the organization day to day. You have to approve every resolution, and there are many other duties that you are responsible for. So if you're going to run for president, you have to be available. And if you're going to be running for Skelly, you can.
We'll be right back after this commercial break.
No, Skelly. After where I cut off, basically the previous sentence, you can cut off. Cal, we're recording in here because Skelly's doing. Yeah. You like teleport away?
Oh God, no, go.
Looks like we had a visitor. Anyways, our last topic here. This is not just a UC show. This is an MRT server show. The anniversary is coming up, and the staff are talking about paying people money to host events like, I presume, Taco Burrito Dawn and The Amazing Grace. How do you guys think that it would change the server? Do you think it would cause an explosion of events, or do you think it really wouldn't change much?
Odd that this isn't a UC show. It looks like we're in the UC headquarters, and I see the UC headquarters out this window behind me.
And hello.
The MRT anniversary, I haven't really thought much about that. I guess there'll be something. I mean, it's just going to be an event. Not much else than that.
Yeah, the event.
Sorry about that.
The events that that probably happened in the anniversary, probably they're just gonna probably liven up the server a little bit, but really I think most people are gonna be thinking about what's gonna end up happening after that, because Frumple has said in the past the server past the future of 2018, I guess in January 2018 is still undecided, and realistically, I don't think that's really what's up in the air, because though we may have events such as these events going on now, Taco Burrito-thon next weekend, and future games or events such as maybe the Minigame Mania or anything like that, I think those are more of like time fillers. While the anniversary will be important, I think that it's gonna let more people know that time is passing quickly. What's gonna happen to the server next year? And that's, I think, really the ultimate question people are going to be thinking because of the anniversary.
Yeah, it's going to be important for us to really enjoy the MRT server while we have it. It's not going to last forever. I think there are a lot of people who get a lot out of the MRT. So personally, I hope that Frumple makes the decision come January to keep the server going. However he decides to do that. If he doesn't want to run the server, I don't know, give it to an admin or something. Although Frumple did say he's going to be making an announcement at some time in the future regarding this, so I guess we're just going to have to wait and see until then. But I think the MRT is an amazing server. There's really no server quite like it. I mean, there have been a few MRT server esque servers, but those never really gained much traction and have basically been defunct for quite a while. So the MRT is really the only server like itself that ever caught on in the Minecraft community. So I think it's a really valuable server to have. If the server does shut down, I can imagine probably some of the community will fragment off to Wolfhaven. Some will try to start new servers. I honestly don't think that a server with the success of the MRT server will be repeated at any time in the near future. But yeah, we're just gonna have to wait and see.
Well, to be fair, I feel like Minecraft itself is on the decline anyways.
I mean, I wouldn't really say that, because I mean, the thing is, the MRT server is a community of members. Of course, maybe we won't get as much guests as we used to, but really all that matters is that the members that we already have stay active and contribute to the server. And there have been a lot of members, a lot of older members who were here on the old world who aren't with us anymore, and a lot of people come and go. But we've gotten a lot of new members in the past few years. We have an entire segment of members who have joined our community in the past year or two, who were never part of the community back as late as 2014, and those members don't look like they're going anywhere anytime soon. And we've got quite a few older members still hanging it out on the server. We've got all of us were here for the old world, and a lot of the community is still sticking around. So I don't think the MRT is dying out by any means. And regardless of how Minecraft in general is doing, I think what really matters is the state of the MRT community. And I think the MRT community is in a good state right now.
And definitely, even if the server closes, like feeling maybe not everyone's gonna stay in touch, but I feel like it's definitely gonna leave a big impact in people's lives. And when it closes, I hope, and I think that at least some people will try to stay in touch with each other. Maybe meet in real life, or try to stay in touch, because I think that the server is is such a unique thing to anybody's life. And I think that we're all grateful to Frumple and to everyone who's helped this community grow and thrive over the past 5 years. That it's definitely going to leave a memory or some nostalgia whenever anybody thinks back here, because it's going to be one of those things that you're gonna remember back to and think of, I remember that. And I think that most people are gonna be like, I remember that and I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
The MIT server really has left an impact. That's it for the roundtable discussion for today. We'll be back with Talk with To Minecartia after 30 seconds. That's it for the panel segment. To conclude today, I'd like to offer a bit of commentary on the United Cities. It's quiet right now. Elections aren't really going on. There hasn't been any big controversial resolutions in the past week. But with electoral reform on the plate, it's gonna get loud again politically. So enjoy the quiet while you can. That's it for the MRT News Reports. Don't forget that we will stream The Amazing Race starting at 2:25 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Saturday. From all of us at MRT News Channel, have a great morning and have a great Sunday, and we hope you have a great week.